Welcome back to page 121. Today on Traveler Campaign Tips 3, we're going to take a look at skills. And this is going to come out of the Core Rulebook 2022. Why this one? Well, because that's the rule set that I'm using for this series of videos, and it's the one I'm currently running with my group. So we're going to take a look at skills, why you need to take a look at them, a good long look at them when you're prepping your game, and how you need to balance your campaign based on the skills your travelers have. So today on page 121, skills. Skills in Traveler. Skills largely drive the Traveler game, and that's why it's such an important topic, and that's why I'm looking at skills so early in my campaign tips series. And the skills we're going to look at today are going to be out of the Traveler Core Rulebook Update 2022, because that's what I'm basing this series of videos on and my campaign. So here we have skills and tasks. Skills and tasks are very interesting. They are based on what skills you as a traveler generate while you're rolling your character up, or as you play the campaign as you improve the character. And then a task check, a characteristic check, can be something as simple as trying to lift something heavy, so you use your strength plus your whatever your strength modifier is. So we're going to go into that a little bit, and we're going to talk about what the task checks are and do, and the levels of difficulty for them. So first things first, let me explain a simple, just an easy game mechanic, how Traveler works. If I want to shoot somebody, I'm in combat and I want to shoot at somebody and I want to hit them, and I have a gun combat skill of 2, but no other modifiers. My average difficulty check is 8. So I have to roll an 8 or greater on 2 dice 6, and that's 2 dice 6 plus my 2 for my skill, my pit gun combat 2. So I go ahead and roll it. I roll a 6. A 6 plus 2 is 8. 8, I've succeeded in my check. Now there are other modifiers that fall into that. If the person's behind cover and that cover gives them plus 2, then I roll my 6, plus 2 is 8, minus 2 is 6. I've missed. So that's how it goes. It's actually very simple, but it can be one of the more intimidating aspects of running a Traveler campaign. So what I recommend is that you go ahead and you read through these skill systems entirely, all the skills themselves. Read them over, get very familiar with them, and then once you've generated the characters, go back and dial in on the ones the player characters actually have. That way, when the player characters throw something at you mid-game, you're going to be ready to deal with it. You're not going to have to stop and look up books. You don't have to be an expert on the book to do what I just described. It's actually a very simple way to get your brain ready for it. What I will do often, I always keep copies of my players' sheets when I'm running a game like Traveler. And then as I'm prepping my game, part of my prep is I'll stop by, take a look at their skills, refresh myself on them, and then look at the skills themselves. And I'm doing this each time I run the campaign. That sounds like a lot of work. It's actually not. It takes me 5 or 10 minutes because I'm very familiar with it. But what it does is it primes my brain for dealing with stuff in the course of the game. So now we're going to take a look at difficulty levels. Your task difficulties on this handy dandy little chart, and they range from simple, they go through easy, routine, average, difficult, very difficult, formidable, and impossible. I'm going to explain what each of those means right now. So a simple task is just a trivial thing. You're reading a pamphlet. It's really that basic. I don't ever remember asking anybody in Traveler to roll for a simple task. An easy task. It could be trivial for a professional. An easy task might be hiking cross country for a few hours. So there's no skill roll needed for that too. I don't remember anybody ever asking anybody to roll for an easy task at a level of 4. A routine task can be pretty trivial for a trained professional, and this can be something like laying in a routine course to go from a moon to a planet, or to place an orbit, or maybe even plot a simple jump point. An average task, I would actually keep for your jump points myself. Average is an 8. You're going to have a guy with some skills in his jump plot and everything. I would go ahead and keep at an 8. It can be a 6. It really depends on how much you want to worry about what your characters are doing, getting into jump and things like that. And I'm going to deal with jump in another video. Then we go to a difficult task. That's where it's tough even for a trained professional. Placing an accurate shot in the middle of a Ferocious storm is the example they give. Defending a client in court when they're clearly guilty, that sort of thing. Now we get to very difficult, which is a 12 or up. And it's hard for a trained professional and nearly impossible for an amateur. A 12 or more. So hard for a trained professional. You're trying to pick a lock during a massive firefight. I would probably give that a very difficult or a very difficult roll, a 10 or a 12. Formidable, exceptionally hard. Performing surgery on an alien of radically different biology is an example they give. Hacking a military-grade computer network, that kind of thing. That's a 14 or up. And then impossible, which is a 16 and up, such as, reconstructing alien DNA, rebuilding, a computer network from scratch. That's just not going to happen. So, again, I don't remember ever asking anybody to roll for an impossible one either. Older Traveler rules very often topped out at 12. But I don't have a problem with 14 or 16. That can add some spice to the game. Now we go to a very cool effect of Mongoose Traveler, which is the Boon and Bane system. I like the Boon and Bane. For a standard Traveler task, you're going to throw 2 die 6. So there we go. Look at that. Boxcars right out of the gate. That means I'm going to succeed. High is better than low. Boxcars in our campaign always succeeds, whatever the difficulty, to a point. If you're trying to, do something incredibly ridiculous, cold start a broken fusion engine or something, no, then that's not going to work. But a roll of snake eyes always fails in our game. So if you roll 2 on 2 die 6, I don't care what your mods are or anything else, you fail. Now, Boon and Bane dice work a little differently. If I have a Boon, for instance, I've got something that's really in my favor. I'm performing a difficult surgery. I have medical 3. It's a difficult surgery, but I have a trained team around me, and I've got top flight, tech level 15 facility. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get a Boon dice. A Boon dice, it works this way. I throw 3 dice. I take the 2 highest and discard the lowest because I'm getting a boon, a benefit. So in this case, I rolled a 4 and 3 is a 7. I have medical 3, which brings me to a 10. So congratulations. There would be no bonus modifier for my trained team that's around me, simply because that's what the Boon dice does. Now, same scenario, but I'm going to apply a Bane dice. I have performed the exact same surgery. I don't have my trained team around me, and I'm not in a top flight facility. I'm in a tech level 8 warehouse, just kind of trying to slap something together to keep someone alive. That's going to be a Bane dice. A Bane dice, you throw the 3 and you discard the top die. So in this case, I have 2 6s. I discard one of the 6s. So now I've rolled a 6 and a 1 becomes a 7 plus my 3 for medic is a 10. I've succeeded again. So as you can see, Boon and Bane dice can be impactful. I'm going to roll another Bane dice and see if I can get a bad result. No, I'm rolling really hot today. I wish I was playing. There we go. So here's a Boon and a Bane dice. A Bane dice, I would remove Bane dice, I remove the 3. And my result is a 3 plus 3 is 6. My task was 8. So I've blown my task. So that's really how Boon and Bane dice work. I like it. I use Boon more often than I use Bane, I've got to be honest. I'm not crazy about the dice dictating stuff that's negative for the players. I have no problem with it being positive for the players. But my experience has been that it's more self-deterministic. If the players don't have a die that's going to give them a really bad result, it's just how I feel about it. I like the Boon and Bane system. I do use it. I just am a little stingier with putting Bane dice on stuff than I am in putting Boon dice on it. And if it sounds, again, like you've seen my other videos that I'm player-centric, I am. These are people that have taken time out and want to play a game and have fun. It's not about me finding ways to kind of stick it to them in the course of the play. I have to make it challenging, but I have to make it entertaining as well. So now we go to effect. An effect is kind of interesting because it's basically, if my die roll, I need an 8 to succeed, and I have my 3 medic, and I've rolled an 8 plus my 3 medic. If my roll is an 11, I've succeeded by 3 greater than I needed. That's going to be my effect. 3 greater than I needed, I'm going to go to the effect results table. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to see that it is an average success. I succeed normally. So that's kind of interesting too. You use the effect, which is the difference between what you needed and what you rolled, to tell you how good or bad your roll was. I'm going to throw it again using my medical 3 again. So my medical 3 this time, a 5 is my total roll, 4 plus 1, plus 3 is an 8, exactly what I needed, was an 8. My effect is 8 minus 8, or 0, and that's a marginal success. Can barely succeed at the task and may have to accept a condition on their success. They fix the engine, but it will overheat. They find a buyer for the goods, but the buyer is an untrustworthy criminal, something like that. So this is all to add flavor to your game. If you end up, I'm going to keep going until I get it. There we go. That's a good one. Okay, so I needed an 8. I've got a 5 plus 4 is a 9 plus 3 more is a 12. My 8, it's a success. Now see, again, I've only had average success. If I go to exceptional success, I succeed in impressive and elegant fashion. We're talking Commander Montgomery Scott for this kind of stuff here. Exceptional failure is I was trying to fix that engine, but it blows up. So effect can be really neat. If I were to roll a 3 plus 3, yeah, see, effect is really a cool idea. And then effect is used for opposed checks. When I do an opposed check, a simple opposed check would be there's someone on the other side of the door trying to keep the door closed by leaning against it, and I'm trying to push the door open by pushing against it. That's an opposed check, their strength versus mine. So I would roll, there is, okay, I've got a modifier to my strength of 2, so I've got a 6 plus a 4 is 10 plus 2 is a 12. Congratulations, I succeeded. Now he's going to roll. I've got a 12, and he's going to roll to keep the door closed. Uh-oh, no modifier for him, and he rolled a 3 and a 7, or 3 and a 5, 3 and a 2, so that becomes a 5. So it's 12 minus 5. I succeeded with an exceptional success, or he failed with an exceptional failure. So I won that opposed check. That's how opposed checks work in the book. The problem with checks becomes opposed checks is using this chart, as you see, as my demonstration showed. You end up with, marginal success or average success very often. So what you can end up doing is just continually tying on the opposed checks. What I'll do then is if they tie on the effect, I'll go ahead and I'll look at the actual roll itself. And if one person rolled higher than the other on the base dice, which I just did, a 10 versus a 5, then I'll go ahead and do that, rather than keep rolling opposed checks. Now that's going to depend on the situation. There may be times in the game that you're going to want to keep the opposed check going. I'm holding that door shut. I've wedged it with something. That's different. That's the kind of thing you're going to take a look at. Multiple tasks. You're trying to do two things at once, so you're trying to disarm that bomb. That's really going to be up to the gameplay itself as to whether you get modifiers on that. You're disarming that bomb while you're in a firefight. And then they go into more time. If I take more time in trying to rebuild that engine or perform that surgery, I can go ahead and I can change my target number or result in a Boon dice. If I go too fast and try to hurry through it, I could give myself a negative DM or even a bane dice. And then task chains when people are working together. When I'm trying to repair that engine and I've got somebody on the board monitoring the electronics and working with me, we can chain together our tasks, and then we can go by the effect again by how much our combined task chain, how much our combined effect is on the task chain. So it works very similar. I don't really use task chains. I would. I'm not opposed to it. I just find that the fluidity of Traveler, I don't get boiled down in that much small stuff, so I just end up using task chains. And that could be a flaw in my DMing. I don't know. And then I'm going to go ahead to the actual skills themselves. And I'm going to do a quick thumbnail of each and every one of these. One thing I love about Mongoose is they use what was called in Mega Traveler the Cascade system. So I'll get to that in just a minute. I have one coming up under animals. But first I want to talk about admin. You are really good at bureaucracies and administration. You just find your way through the red tape. So admin's a good skill. That can actually be a very beneficial skill going into and out of the starport. I like admin. As I've said, one of my campaigns, my guy had admin 4. Boy, was he good at paperwork. Advocate. I love advocate. That's a newer one to my experience since Mongoose started it up. It could have been in other versions, and I'm not remembering it. I don't know. But I love advocate. Gives you knowledge of common legal codes and practices especially interstellar law, gives you experience in oratory, debate, and public speaking, making an excellent skill for lawyers and politicians. Advocate is really good. I also want to say that if you're looking for, you have a romantic interest going on at a party, I would allow advocate to be one of the skills you use. You are trying to persuade the other party that what you want is desirable and would be in their benefit. So advocate is absolutely a skill I would apply it to. So now we go to animals, and this is the first of what Mega Traveler used to call cascade skills, but it's not called that here. It's just a specialty. And I like this in Traveler a lot. Animal handling, so basically the animals, this skill is for the care of animals. And then we come down to handling. That's one of the specialties, how to handle and ride them. Veterinarian and training animals. So these would be subsets under it. You could take animals handling one and veterinary one. Veterinary. So now we go to art. Travelers trained in a type of creative art. There are a lot of specialties underneath this. A performer, stage actor possibly, holography, you shoot the film. Instrument, you can play a musical instrument. Visual media, you're really good at paintings and such, or writing. So lots of different things. Again, this is what used to be known as a cascade skill. Astrogation, that's pretty straightforward. How to plot a point for my starship from here to there. And it's usually it's used for calculating jumps. Athletics, very important in Traveler, in this iteration of Traveler. And again, you can have subsets of these: dexterity, endurance, or strength. And dexterity would be used for climbing, juggling, throwing, that kind of thing. Endurance would be long distance running or hiking. And then strength, of course, feats of strength, weightlifting, arm wrestling. So again, these are specialties underneath the main skill. Now we come to broker. Broker skill allows you to negotiate trades and arrange fair deals. And it's used a lot in Traveler. If you're going to be doing a Traveler trading campaign, by all means, have someone with broker. Carouse, the art of socializing, having fun, but also making sure other people have fun. You're the life of the party. Deception allows you to lie fluently, disguise yourself, perform sleight of hand, and fool onlookers. Most underhand ways of cheating and lying fall under deception. You're trying to bluff your way past that guard, that you're an important guy and your papers are valid. Deception's an important thing. Diplomat. Diplomat skill is good for negotiating deals, so that could also be used in conjunction with broker, depending on the situation. Peaceful contacts and smoothing over social faux pas. A good example of a diplomat, in my opinion, is Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Now we go to drive. This is maintaining and controlling the drive of this is drive as in ground vehicles and various types, not the Starship drive, my bad. So again, there's specialties. You have hovercraft, mole for digging machines, tracked vehicles, walkers, and wheeled vehicles. Your levels of skill would apply to one of those. Electronics, and again, this is operating electronic devices such as computers and onboard systems, and higher levels represent the ability to repair and create electronic devices and systems. So I would allow anybody to try to cobble together a patchwork thing, even with Electronics 1. But Electronics 3, obviously, they're going to have a much better time of it, and that just represents more time around the machine, the equipment, and more time in training. So again, we have Commo, which is communications, Uhura from Star Trek, computers, remote operations, remote control drones, missiles, that kind of thing, and then sensors, using and interpreting data from electronic sensors. Engineering skills used to maintain spacecraft and other advanced vehicles. So here's Mr. Scott. You have here your drives, the maneuver drive, the M drive. That's your specialty. Your jump drive, your J drive, life support, and the power plant. Power. So very important if you're going to have a starship that your people are going to be crewing. Explosives includes the use of demolition charges and planting them as well, and disarming them. Flyer. This would be in-atmosphere flyer, flying a air-breathing vehicle or a prop-driven vehicle. Gambler. Who doesn't want gambler for their Traveler character? It's exactly what it sounds like. You're very experienced in games of chance. You may or may not cheat. That really depends on your character. Another thing I like about Traveler is no alignments. Gunner. Various specialties of this skill deal with the operation of ship-mounted weapons in space combat. Most Travelers have smaller ships equipped solely with turret weapons. So your specialties would be turret. So you've got a guy who can fire the turret on your scout ship that's got the beam turret, or artillery, which is orbital artillery. Somebody's skilled at firing that. Screens, operating the screens defensively for the ship. And then capital, which would be firing bay or spinal mounted weapons. Gun combat. Who doesn't want gun combat in travel? I will take it. Gun combat is so important that you can have specialties in this. Archaic, for primitive weapons that are not thrown, such as bows and bowpipes. Energy weapons, for advanced energy weapons like laser pistols or plasma rifles. Or slug throwers, weapons that fire solid projectiles, such as the auto rifle or Gauss rifle. So, gun combat, very useful skill. Heavy weapons, very useful skill here. Larger and more damaging weapons. They could be artillery. They could be portable, such as missile launchers, flamethrowers, portable fusion, plasma guns, or vehicle mounted. So if you've got that 50 cal sitting on top of your vehicle and you need heavy weapons to fire it with any kind of benefit. Investigate. You can make keen observation, forensics, and detailed analyses. Investigate's a very good skill. It can also be used, in my opinion, in a lot of cases to in place of like a recon skill where you can tell just by looking around the room if it's a setup. Jack of all trades. I love jack of all trades. If you try any skill unskilled, in other words, I don't even have a level 0 in it, I'm going to try to do medical skill, and I have no medical training. I am at a -3 to do my skill. Jack of all trades means I'm so adept at learning and having observed things that I don't necessarily have -3. Jack of all trades goes in 1, 2, and 3. Each level of jack of all trades takes away from my -3. So if I'm -3 in the unskilled surgery I was going to do, but I have jack of all trades 1, that means maybe I witnessed the surgery at some time and I have some pointers on what to do. So now I'm only -2. So obviously you want jack of all trades 3 if you can get it, because that means you never suffer the unskilled penalty of -3. You always act as if you have a level 0 skill. That's really handy across the board. Jack of all trades in most iterations of Traveler has been a really good skill to have. This is the only one that cannot go beyond 3, by the way. Language. This has a lot of sub-languages as well. This is reading and writing and possibly translating. And then you go up to the specialties here, which Galanglic, the common trade language of the Third Imperium, Villani, Zettel, which is Zodani spoken language, Orniprith, which is the Droin language, Trok, which is the Aslan language, or Vech, the Vargir spoken language. So you could order a meal, that would be a routine check, language 6, and you don't order, a plate full of snails or something. Leadership, skills for directing, inspiring, and rallying comrades, allies, and comrades. Leadership is good for a leader character. It can also be used as part of your combat if you use that particular thing where the leader on one side can give a benefit to initiative for their character. I'll cover that more when we talk about combat. Mechanic allows you to maintain and repair most equipment. This is just a general mechanic. He's skilled. He's good with working his hands, but maybe not diagnosing some kind of electronic problem. Amos from The Expanse, in my opinion, would be a good example of a mechanic. Medic, I've already talked about medic a lot. This is a medic who's treating you. He has some medic skills. Maybe he's a trained doctor. We go to melee. Specialties under this. Unarmed, which is punching, kicking, wrestling. I would throw martial arts in there. Blade combat, fighting with swords, rapiers, blades, and others. Bludgeon, such as maces and clubs. Or natural. These are natural claws, like an Aslan using his claws. Navigation, the planet-side counterpart of astrogation. You are using your skill to find your way around on the planet, reading a map. Persuade, more casual and informal version of diplomat. Covers fast talking, bargaining, wheedling, and bluffing. It also covers bribery or intimidation, so persuade is a good one too for that romantic partner you're interested in. Now we come to pilot. The pilot skill is for spacecraft operations, and this is for small craft, that's your shuttle or other craft under 100 tons, spacecraft, trade ships and other vessels between 100 and 5,000 tons, or capital ships, battleships and ships over 5,000 tons. Now, if I had a guy who had a pilot 3 in spacecraft, and for whatever reason he had to pilot a capital ship for a moment, I might allow him to take that with a modifier of -1 on his skill or -2, depending on the situation. I might also just let him use the skill and apply a bane dice. So profession. This one's wide open. this is basically any profession that you could make money at. And the specialties given here are belter, biologicals, such as engineering and managing artificial organisms, civil engineering, designing structures and buildings, construction itself of the buildings, hydroponics, growing crops in hostile environments, polymers, designing and using polymers. So profession can be your scientist guy who's working with his polymers, and he's created a new polymer that's going to be even lighter than transparent aluminum and is going to revolutionize the world. Recon. Traveler trained in recon is able to scout out dangers and spot threats, unusual objects, and out-of-place people. Recon is a very good skill to have. I would definitely allow that to apply if you're walking into a meet and somebody's got something set up. I would allow a recon roll. Science. This is another big one that covers a lot of things. This dials in a little bit more than a profession, and you dial into the actual science itself. Archaeology, astronomy, biology, chemistry, cosmology, cybernetics, economics, genetics, history, linguistics, philosophy, physics, planetology, psionicology, psychology, robotics, sophontology, or xenology. These are all specialties. Pretty much any kind of science we have in the real world or anything you can think up could fall into the science category, and you could have levels in a variety of these. Perhaps you're an economist who dabbles a little bit in archaeology. I had an uncle who was have an uncle who was a Spanish professor, very skilled at teaching in Spanish, but he also was an amateur archaeologist. Seafarer. Seafarer covers all manner of watercraft and ocean travel. Not going to be as common, but it still definitely is going to have its place, especially in a high water world. Stealth. Traveler trained in stealth is adept at staying unseen, unheard, and unnoticed. Steward, that's the way of taking care of those pesky, noble passengers aboard a ship, giving them the creature comforts they've come to expect. Streetwise, very useful skill in traveler. Amos, again, from The Expanse, would have streetwise. You understand the urban environment and power structures in society, and you understand basically the criminal underworld, that sort of thing. So that is by no means. I'm sorry, I was cutting ahead a little bit. I got a few more. Survival. This survival of the wilderness. It's the wilderness version of streetwise. You know how to survive out in the wilderness. You know how to make a fire. You know how to give shelter to yourself without equipment. Tactics. This skill covers battle planning and decision making, all the way from board games to squad level combat. Chess is a good thing of tactics. That's a good example. So you have specialties here of military or naval. Military, these would be the foot soldiers, and naval would be the spacecraft or your fleet, depending on your level. And then your vac suit. Vac suit, again, very important. I would recommend most travelers have at least vac suit 0. So this is by no means an extensive, it's extensive, my apologies, but exhaustive list. It is not exhaustive. There are many other skills you can add to this from many other sources. You can add from the Traveler Companion. There are some sources there. Various Traveler articles have had skills in them. Other editions of Traveler have different skills and utilizations. And then you don't even have to stay in the game. Here is a big book of skills. This is from Hero System, the Ultimate Skill book. This book is almost 400 pages of skills. It's not exclusively skills, but it's skills and how to apply them in a game. Now, Hero System is a 3x6 system based on a base 11. But other than that, it's very similar, especially to Mongoose Traveler. And they have a lot of interrelatability. I do use skills out of this book, and I recommend it. And then there's a great section in this book as well about traps and security systems, disguises, things like this. So this is just not just skills, it's different things about skills. It goes a great deal of depth. It's available on DriveThruRPG, but I want to warn you the DriveThruRPG one is available. It's $11 for the PDF, but it only listed as 64 pages, so I'm not sure what's been taken out of that. I don't have that PDF. I do know that this book is available on some aftermarkets like eBay, and also from the actual Heroes Games website. So it's a good book to take a look at. I use it as an example of a book you could draw from, and you could get other skills from. If you play Call of Cthulhu or any game like that, any of the older games, even D&D, there are skills you can draw from and bring over to Traveler. So don't let yourself be limited by what's listed in a particular book. Go ahead and expand your skills to whatever you feel you need. So that's all I've got to say about skills for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you could, remember the Patreon, I'd appreciate it. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to see them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on page 121.